How the hell y'all feeling right now?
Yo, this is Neville Gallimore from the Dallas Cowboys, and I want to give a major shout out to Mike Tag. Keep bringing the hype to the Cowboys Nation. We love and appreciate it. Now, can you dig it?
What is up, Cowboys Nation? How the hell are we feeling on a Wednesday evening? We just we came off of I would say a little bit of a disappointment, but I'd say we're at the point of the week where it's time to get over that shit. Pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and what better way to do that than to bring in a guest, somebody that is like, it's one of my aces. I mean, she's a longtime friend. She knows her stuff with the Cowboys football. She might have a bomb drop tonight. She's warned me that she does, so you guys might be in for a treat. But by popular demand, she's back. I brought her out of hiding. My old co-host from Cowboys and Chaos. Let me just put her theme music on right quick. Return of the Mac. Due to by this is her walk-in music, but here we go, y'all. What is up, MC? Welcome to the show. Cowboys Cave is honored to have you here tonight. How the hell are you doing?
I am so happy to be back. Every time I get invited, I am so excited. Anytime for you. Yes,
Well,
I'm excited.
and I really do appreciate that because I know you told me before the show. You said if one person can get you out of hiding and out of the witness protection program, that's me. So I appreciate you coming through for me. Mike said he wasn't going to be able to come on and do the show tonight, so I thought to myself, all right, I got to get a guest on here that's going to bring some pop. We're coming off the Cowboys-Eagles week. We had the Eagles week. It's the middle of the season. It's ready to get into, a stretch here where we got the Giants coming up. We got, it's the home stretch here, the last half of the season. So it's time, get some opinions, see where we're at, see where we're feeling. And we're going to start with this Eagles game. Obviously, not the outcome we wanted. Going into this game, I predicted a score of 35-20, and I was wrong, as I have been a few times this year. But
you thought it was gonna be that like that?
I did. I thought that we were going to be able to exploit that Philadelphia secondary like so many other people did, and we did. I mean, Dak did. Dak was moving the ball around, but there was some things that happened in that game, and we can get into that. But let me get your opinion real quick to start this thing off. What did you think of the game? What was your opinions on it? What was your thought going into it? Tell us how you felt about this Philadelphia game.
So, I mean, going into it, I was like, this is going to be a really good game, right? Like I thought it was a good matchup. I thought it was going to be, response after response, which it was. I thought it was going to be back and forth type of game, which it was. I was a little bit concerned about our offensive line going into it. We'll get into that. I was a little bit concerned about our defense as well. I mean, I think overall I was kind of just cautious because I knew it was going to be a good matchup. I knew it was going to be a back and forth type of game, right? And it was. Yeah, so going into it, I think that I wasn't overly confident. I definitely thought it was going to give us a run for our money. But I do think we played well. I do. Overall.
Yeah. Well, and there was some talk in the game, at the end of the game, I went and did my, my post-game thing that I always do. And I talked about, some of the penalties that we had. Some of them were legit. Some of them were not legit. There were, I didn't want to try to make excuses, but I did think that there were some big calls in that game that went against us that I thought were missed. I thought the offensive line, the left side, played pretty well. I thought, the right side, not so much, which, Terrence Steele it gave me flashbacks of Chaz Green in that that game against the Falcons when he gave up 8 sacks that game. It gave me flashbacks of that. And I'll be honest with you, even Zach Martin, though, in this game struggled a little bit from that right side. So which is uncharacteristic. Now, I don't know if that had to do with Terrence Steele, just trying to cover up and, try to assist Terrence Steele a little bit. But the right side of the line was shaky. We gave up some big sacks where you just can't give up a sack. It's one of those times in the game where it's like, anything but a sack. And there was a couple of times where I thought that Dak should have thrown that ball away, but then there was a couple of them where he didn't even have a chance to throw the ball away. And I know that right now he's thinking he's going to the game, doesn't want to make mistakes, doesn't want to fumble, doesn't want to throw one up and have a pick happen. And he did good. He didn't turn the ball over. But it was one of those things I said at the end, it was a game of inches. And, you've got that play on 4th down when, he throws it to Schoonmaker, the knee is down on just the yard line. I honestly, watching that back, I thought that, Schoonmaker was getting tackled before the ball arrived. We can argue that, and people sit there and say, no, that's, it is what it is. But so what did you, in terms of that, what did you see as the contributing loss to that game? What did you think was that basically cost that game? There was a lot of things that added up. You can't really put it on one thing, but if you had to look back and point to it, what's the thing that you were most disappointed with in that game and in that, in terms of the outcome?
Dak.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are not expecting me to say that. And I think, okay, first and foremost, I love Dak. We all know I love Dak. I will always support Dak, whether he is with this team or the next team or the other team. He's an all-around good leader, good player. But at this point, I mean, before anything, though, I'm a Dallas fan. And he cost us the game. He absolutely did. And I don't care what anyone has to say about it. That when he went out of bounds at that 2-point conversion, he cost us that game. That's a rookie mistake. That was something that I would expect from a quarterback who's played a year at most. That's the type of thing that you look for in a leader. That's the type of thing that you look for in an elite quarterback. And I'm not saying that he does not have the potential to be elite. I'm not saying, I know everyone's probably like, oh my God, she's saying this, she said that before. Yes, I love Dak. I still do. But he has to, his head is somewhere else.
Okay. Well, you did say that you'd have something, something explosive. So listen, me and you, we have always agreed on everything, and we have always pretty much seen eye to eye.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to disagree with you here. I thought, and we've got, listen, I understand we've got right now there's a portion of our fan base that is very split on what they feel Dak is and Dak isn't in terms of if he can win in the big moments, if he can be that quarterback to get us over the hump. And, honestly, I still think that has to be shown in the playoffs. I think Dak still has to do this in the playoffs, and he has to show that he can do it in the playoffs. But I'll say this, the 2-point conversion, when he stepped out of bounds, I did think that was a moment where, you kind of you kind of cringe. But I mean, outside of that really was the only thing that I can look to at Dak and be like, that wasn't a great play, because on the plays when he got sacked, even me, I'm sitting there saying, damn, throw the ball away. But then you go back and you watch it, and the time that he had to throw the ball, and during those times, it was like the offensive line just let the defensive line through at some of the worst possible times. And Terrence Steele, man, I almost, if I was Mike McCarthy, I probably would have made him walk home from Philadelphia. I probably would have made him walk home from Philadelphia and told him, listen, I'm going to have somebody follow you in a car to make sure you don't try to hitchhike, because if you do, you're off the team. You're off the team. But I get what you're saying as far as the 2-point conversion, but I thought Dak played tremendous. And there was some key drops in the game. And I think that that was probably the closest thing to a team loss as you can get. I think we just had some unfortunate things, some calls that went the wrong way, and the ball bounced the wrong way several times in terms of that fumble. I mean, how do we not recover? You recover that fumble at the end of the game that was basically in Parsons' lap. Game's over. I mean, that's it. We got the ball on the 5-yard line, 10-yard line, and it's over. But I'll let you have the floor and further make
because like this is weird. Like this is so weird to me because like out of anyone, right? Like I am the one who has always been like, nope, Dak did this right, Dak did that. Like it's so strange to me because, and mind you, I have not been on Twitter in many, many months, right? So I don't know what people are saying. I know what I've seen. I know like on Facebook, whatever, mind you, but to me, this loss was not something that, I mean, yes, the offensive line, right, especially has a huge part to play in it, but in my opinion, like I can't, and I've found every way possible to defend Dak in every game prior, right? I think there were more than one examples in this game that convinced me that okay, he needs to he needs to do better. He does. Like, and I have since deleted the post on Facebook, but in the heat of the moment, I posted something on Facebook. And I'm not taking it back. I'll say it. I said Dak ain't it. And
Okay.
Lord forgive me. Because that is, if anyone knows me, they know how I feel about Dak. But it's the mistakes like that. Like I don't care. Like this far into your tenure as a quarterback, it's not excusable to me. It's not.
So I understand what you're saying because of one thing. Here's where I'll agree with you. So I get where a lot of fans' frustration starts to bubble and starts to be, hey, it's the quarterback is the quarterback, because the quarterback gets the credit when we win and he gets the blame when we lose. But the 49ers game is a game that I would point to and say that Dak cost us that game. I'd say Dak lost us that game because Dak played like absolute ass horseshit. I think the year before the 49ers game, he played very bad. But when I look at this game, which typically a divisional game on the road, you sit there and you look at it and you're like, man, this is a game where Dak's going to probably turn the ball over. I mean, last year, to start Philadelphia, even in Dallas, that was in our place. Dak throws an early pick six. Eagles are up 10 right away out the gate. Not a great start, right? This game, Philly gets the ball, drives right down the field. They score, or we get the ball. We go 3 and out. Philly gets the ball. They score, right? So it's not off to a good start. I'm like, here we go. We need to answer here. Dak proceeds to end up with this game 29 of 44 for 374 yards and 3 TDs. I'm not sure what more in this game really that he could have done. I just think it came down to a few unlucky plays that on the defensive side, honestly, whether it be the strip sack that came right back to Hurts, whether it be the fumble at the end of that game, whether it be, obviously I thought the offensive line played horrible, but I can't put this one on Dak. I understand what people are saying because people are looking at the overall entirety of the picture and saying, Dak Prescott, it seems like in the biggest of moments, in the biggest of games, the Cowboys come up short. And a lot of times that gets put on Prescott. But in this particular game, the fact we didn't turn it over any and didn't give it back to the defense not one time, I have a hard time putting that on Dak Prescott, me personally.
Are you telling me that if he would have stayed in bounds for that 2-point conversion that we would have still lost? Because to me
now that's not a guarantee though. So let's say we get that and we're up now, we're 25. We've got 25, it's 25. Now we're only now down 3 and we just need a field goal. We still got stopped coming back down the other end. So there's still no guarantee we score a touchdown to win the game. We might score a field goal. I believe we would have scored a field goal to at least tie it. But then it still takes it to overtime, and you're still depending on overtime to do that, where some crazy stuff can happen. You're still playing in Philly. You're playing on the road. I felt like there was too many calls that did not go our way, and I felt that there was just some very unlucky plays that sometimes in football, especially in a tight game on the division on the road, you have to have some things go your way. And I felt like really not much went our way. But I mean, in terms of the offense getting things done, I mean, Tony Pollard had 12 carries for 51 yards. I mean, in a night where we were not able to run the ball and we became a one-dimensional team, this is the kind of game I've wanted to see where Dak puts the offense on his back and says, look, I'm going to get this done for you guys. CeeDee Lamb with 11 receptions, 191 yards. I thought he did it. I just thought it was a heartbreaking thing because we came up short. But coming out of the game, after this game, I actually felt, if this makes sense, I actually felt more confident because I'm going to be honest with you. I said 35-20. The Cowboys would win 35-20. But honestly, there was part of me that thought that Dak could go into Philly and crumble. That's a tough environment to play in. It's that's
See, Kelly, there are very few things that you and I disagree on, but this is one of them because I swear to God, since his injury, he has not run the same. Because I can tell you there was more than one time that he ran during that game, and he could have at least, I can think of at least one time when he absolutely could have got a first down, but he slid. He runs with hesitation. He runs scared. He runs like he's afraid. And I get it, but I don't at the same time. Like at the end of the day, like, do not try to run into the end zone, get your ass flipped over doing a fucking handstand like you did in the one. Like, I know that's a meme right now. Everyone thinks that's hilarious, but like, if you're going to do that, fucking run, right? Like, there have been so many times, and I don't want to say so many, but there have been more than one times where I feel like he could at least got a first down, but he is so hesitant that it drives me crazy. But then, like, when you do run, you get blasted by two defensive men at the same time. I don't know.
I think that Dak has used, I would say that Dak this season, at least now, at least currently right now, in the past 3 games, I would say that Dak has used his legs though more than what we've seen in seasons past. I think
Yeah, but not like he can. Not like he can.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is I don't want to turn Dak into a quarterback that runs a little bit too much. You're right. There are some times that I want to see him run a little bit more, but at the same time, I don't want him to get decapitated either because if a lot of times if they can take a shot at the quarterback, they're going to. I mean, you saw that play where he's trying to score a touchdown. Slay had a video where he posted, and he basically said, "Hey, look, Dak jumped in the air, and afterwards he asked him, what were you thinking? Why'd you go airborne? Why'd you jump?" Dak told him, I'm trying to score a touchdown. He's like, I'm trying to win this game. And
okay, then if you're going to run, then run. Because I can tell you there have been more than one play where he is so hesitant towards running, he doesn't even seem like he's committed to it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I understand what you mean. I think that Dak has looked better with running. I think he's getting more confident running, getting more confident making things happen outside the pocket. When he runs and he gets mobile and he's throwing on the run, pretty good things happen. And I just think that lately with him and CeeDee Lamb, that connection they're on right now is pretty good. Those two right now are on a pretty good tear. And I think quietly, Dak is having one of his better seasons. I mean, last year, you look at it, he led the league in interceptions. This year, he's only got 4 interceptions. 3 of those came in that 49ers game. So now the thing is, he's still got plenty of time to kind of change his narrative and flip it. The Eagles are going to still come to Dallas here in about 5 weeks. We still get a tougher schedule in December because we've got the Bills, we've got the Miami Dolphins. We've got some tough teams where we can change the narrative and kind of the people's opinion on Dak Prescott very soon. But either way, I think
though, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Don't interrupt.
But I'm tired of the whole narrative of us trying to change the narrative of other people's opinions of Dak, right? Like, how about Dak changes the narrative of Dak? You know what I mean? Like I love Dak. Like I will always love Dak, no matter if he plays for this team or the other team. But at the end of the day, like, when is it going to be apparent that he is confident as the fan base in himself?
I honestly, for me, I thought that this was that game.
I disagree.
I thought he had confidence. I thought he played out of his mind. I just thought that you've got
Because he didn't get
Mike.
an interception? Like, that's
No,
a terrible
I mean
bar.
but you've got Michael Gallup that drops two key passes. One of them on fourth down to keep a drive going where we turn the ball back over. CeeDee Lamb drops a
I
pass
know.
where he's open.
I
Like
know.
there were some dropped passes that could have kept drives going that would have been scoring drives. So I'm just saying it's not necessarily that he didn't turn the ball over. It's about how he played and the confidence that he played. He never looked shook. He never looked like the moment was too big. He never looked like, oh, I don't know what to do here. Also, in that last play of the game, he throws that to CeeDee Lamb. If CeeDee Lamb runs that route 2.5 yards deeper, that's a touchdown to win the game. CeeDee Lamb runs that route and cuts that route off at the 2-yard line. 2 yards deeper in the end zone, and 2 yards deeper, he's in the end zone, and that's a touchdown because he put it right where it needed to be. And hey, it is what it is. At the end of the day, though, we lost, and again, we're sitting there looking at this, and we're going, all right, well, we can't, we can't. It's the thing. They're like, hey, you still haven't beat a good team, a winning team. It is what it is, but me personally, my faith is still about where it's always been with Dak. It's still about right here. He's going to have to show me. I love Dak Prescott too. I've been critical of him, but in this particular game, I didn't think that was the game that I was going to sit there and come back and say, "Hey, I'm putting this on Dak." I think
So
our
weird
offensive
to
line
me.
did him
It's
no
so
favors.
weird to me because there have been so many other games where people were like, well, that was on Dak. And I was like, no way. You know what I mean? Like, because if there's anyone who's going to defend Dak, it's me, right? Like, that was it. Like, that was not, I was not impressed at all by
Yeah.
that performance.
Well, I don't know what.
And
Listen,
if
Dak's
the
going to have
bar
to be.
is that, oh, he didn't get an interception, he did good, like, that's terrible. We need to raise
No,
our.
and I don't think that's the bar. But I mean, if your quarterback goes for 374 and 3 touchdowns, you should win a game. I mean, and
But we didn't.
you're right, we didn't. But that's what I said. When you look at all the other things that factored in there, whether it was the shitty play by the offensive line, that's not something that can control at all. When you look at drop passes, can't control that. When you look at these stupid penalties, I mean, a false start penalty when you've got the ball on the 7-yard line and you get a false start that backs you up. Then you get a delay of game. Then you get, all these things, these stupid things where you shoot yourself in the foot and self-inflicted penalties. Cam's typing in here. She says he had a passer rating of 115 that game. I mean, you can't really get much more perfect than what he played in that game. The only thing that you can sit there and maybe find fault in would be the only thing I look to is maybe when he did step out of bounds. But at that play, you're running full speed. You're trying to make something happen. That happens to that has happened to a lot of people where they've stepped out of bounds, where they're tight roping. They're trying. He had a guy bearing down on him, ready to kill him, and he was trying to get in there and do all he can. When I see him jumping up over 2 defenders and getting helicoptered and landing on his head, I'm thinking that's a guy that's got some determination. So me personally, I thought he played balls to the wall, but we still got 9 more games to determine how this season ends up. We're at the midway point of the season right now. So I want to get into that. I want to talk a little bit about, let's put the Philly game behind us. We got to put that in the rear view. We got to move on. We're sitting at 5-3.
That's hard for me, Kelly. That was a hard.
It is. It's always hard when we lose to Philadelphia, especially when we were that close and we thought we could win. But record is what it says we are. We are 5-3 right now. The Dallas Cowboys are 5-3. I had them at the beginning of the season going 13-4. So pretty close to where I thought they would be at this point. I think I only had them at 2 losses at this point of the season. But what is your opinions? What's your thoughts about where the Cowboys are at this point of the season compared to what you thought at the beginning of the season? What and then go into if you were going to give them a grade right now, what's your grade that you're giving for the Dallas Cowboys at the midpoint of the season right now?
So, first game of the season, right? That was exhilarating. Like, I was hype. I think we all were, right? Like, our defense was insane. And our defense still is very good. Like, I'm not trying to knock our defense, but I don't know. I would say that my confidence level has shifted a little bit. But I feel like that's normal, right? Like going into the season, the first game's good, great, amazing, whatever. And then we tend to shift down a little bit. And I always come back to say it's the inconsistency for me. I hate going into a game that I'm like, well, I think it's going to be like this. But knowing historically how we tend to be inconsistent, who knows? So overall, I would agree with you. I'm about where I expected. I'd give us I'll give us a C.
A C.
Yeah.
You're a hard grader. You're a hard grader.
Because you know what, Kelly? You know what? I'm tired of being this close. Because I feel like every single game we're this close. And
Listen,
there's always like one minor thing.
I can't disagree with you too much on that, just because of the fact that that's probably right around where I would say B- to a C grade, just because of the fact of the Arizona Cardinals game. I thought the Arizona Cardinals game was an inexcusable loss. The fact that we lost that game, the fact that we are the only win on the Arizona Cardinals schedule right now is mind-blowing.
That's my ass.
Yeah, and that was Josh Dobbs' first ever win in the NFL. That was inexcusable. The fact that it was an NFC game is inexcusable. And then, the way that we did not show up to San Francisco, the build up to that game was tremendous. The players knew what was at stake. We've played them twice, 2 years in a row in the playoffs. We both had good records going into this, and we walked in and just played like absolute ass on all sides of the ball, really.
The inconsistency. I've said that for years.
Yeah.
It's the inconsistency that I can't take anymore. And I'm sorry. Like, at this point, the quarterback is the leader of the team.
It is.
Right?
It is. And I give us, so I'm saying a B-. I'm saying a B-. And that may be a little bit more generous. I'm saying that, though, just based off of the last few games, because I feel like, and even in this loss, I feel like the offense has gotten better each week. I feel like that when they started out, that offense was struggling, and I feel like the past 3 games, including this Eagles game, this offense has gotten better. I've thought that the defense actually has taken a little bit of a step back. Now they're still good. They're still a strength, but I think the defense has taken a step back, which is kind of what we saw last year too. The defense started off like gangbusters, and then towards the end of the season, they just kind of started, and I don't really get that. I feel like the defense hasn't played with the fire and the consistency that they have played with at the beginning of the season. And what I expected them to play with in that Eagles game, I expected them to get to harass Hurts. I expected them to get a turnover, but I do think that the offense has gotten better from week to week. And I got a question here from somebody real quick that asked, what was the grade if we beat Philly? If we beat Philly, then I'm probably giving them like maybe a B+.
I'd shift mine to a B-.
Yeah, and so it's not, and it was not so much really about the Philly game that affects my grade for me personally. It's that Arizona loss and it's the San Francisco loss, because those are the 2 ones that just bother you the most. San Francisco, okay, it is what it is. You can call it a matchup nightmare for the Cowboys, but like, you've seen what San Francisco has done the past 3 games. I mean, they've got smacked around by 3 teams. They've got 3 straight losses. So you cannot sit there and tell me that team is What did we lose that game? Was it 42-10? Was it 40? I think it was 42. You can't tell me that team is 30 points better than the Dallas Cowboys. I do not believe that for a minute. I just think that we didn't show up that game, period. And there's no excuse for that. So like you say, consistency. It's one of the things.
Right. So when are we going to show up? When are we not going to show up? Do we know? Do we not know? Like, I can't with it. That's what I'm done. Like I'm frustrated.
Consistency has been the topic for me since the offseason. I've talked about it. Mike's talked about it. Other people that have come on the show have talked about it. Moose, we interviewed Moose Johnson. He talked about it. Consistency. Dave Campo, he talked about it. Consistency. That's the running theme for the Dallas Cowboys is consistency. Like, because you almost don't know what you're going to get from this team week to week. And it's almost like that we don't have this season anyway, that we really haven't found an identity. Now, I think that identity has started to make itself a little bit more clear down this stretch. I do. But
you do?
Consistency. I do think that we've shown. So I do think that the identity of this team right now is a team that's going to throw the ball. Mike McCarthy's talked about running the ball. This is not a team that's really running the ball. This is a team where the passing yards have gone up. They've started to target CeeDee Lamb more. They've started to get their tight end involved, which I think we have a hell of a tight end. I think Jake Ferguson is blossoming into one of the very great young tight ends in this league, and I think he's going to be a superstar for this team. So I think they're starting to get that offense set up, and I think early in it was like they were forcing the run. They wanted to force the run. Well, they see now we're not really great running the ball, but if you put the ball in Dak's hands, you get it to your playmakers in CeeDee Lamb. You get it to your playmakers in Ferguson. You get a guy like, they started to get Turpin involved in this past game a little bit, which is
I like him.
Done some things.
I like him a lot.
And after the couple drops that Gallup had, they started getting Jalen Tolbert involved in this game. So they're getting some other people involved, and I like it. I like what I'm seeing, but obviously we want to see this continue to grow, and we want to see better results in the second half of the season. And I know here we got a comment, and he says, K9, this team is always going to have a flush down the toilet game, which that's true. I think most teams have. I mean, the Eagles got one against the New York Jets, but the thing is,
but how many are we allowed to have? Because
at some point you want to stop having those, because I feel like the Cowboys have a few of those games every year. And we get a little bit tired of seeing it. I mean, last year, it was Green Bay, it was Jacksonville, and it was like those two games that cost us the division. That is the difference between a number one seed and a wild card having to go on the road. And we've seen what that can do to a team like Philadelphia. Philadelphia got the number one seed, and they got one of the easiest paths to the Super Bowl that I've ever seen in the history of my life. I mean, they played. What did they play? They ended up playing the Giants. They played an injured 49ers team, and then bam, Super Bowl. I mean, it don't get no easier than that. And that's why these games are that's why they're so important. That's why you can't lose an Arizona game. I don't know.
Well,
but
why are we still talking about Arizona?
Because for me, that's the most disappointing game for me of the season. That's the most disappointing. It's inexcusable.
That's crazy. Look at that game last week's game was the most disappointing game for me, because we had that game.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What do you mean?
I understand that we did have that game. I can't put all of my hate into one basket. And because here's what I think about that Philadelphia game. I think you're right. We had that game. We should have won that game. But you know what I also think? And I don't want to look too far ahead. And you're making me want to do that right now. You're making me want to look too far ahead. I think that when Philadelphia comes to Dallas, I think the Cowboys are going to beat the living shit out of that team. I really do. I think that is a revenge game, and I think Dallas is going to annihilate them. But we can't get too far ahead. Maybe get too far ahead. I'm fast forwarding. I'm going to be kind, and I'm going to rewind. So you give them a C grade for the season. You said this is about where you have them for the season.
Yeah, I'm unimpressed. I'll give him a C.
Where do you project this team going forward? How do you project this team finishing? What kind of record do you see us finishing with to finish the season? And do you think that we can catch the Eagles to overtake the division?
So if I'm being honest,
I will remind you, I will say this. The Eagles' next 3 games, they've got San Francisco, not in this order, but they've got San Francisco, they've got Kansas City, and they've got Buffalo. And we've got the New York Giants, the Commanders, Panthers, and Seattle. They're our next 4. So
I can absolutely see us, catching up to the Eagles in the division. Like, but their schedule versus ours, like, do I think that we are a better team than them right now? No, I don't.
well, if you look at what's been done, I'm one of those people that says your record is what it says it is. Right now, I can't argue and say that we're I'm not one of those people that says, well, I feel like we're hands down better than you. We're 5-3, they're 8-1. The record is what it says it is. I think that we have the potential, if we play, like you said, with consistency week in and week out and don't have letdowns, I think we got the potential to be just as good as Philadelphia. I think we do have the chance to catch them. My thing is,
am I the only one who's tired of having the potential and not coming through?
Hell no, that's every single Dallas Cowboys fans in the history of Dallas Cowboys.
That's what I'm saying.
Fans.
Like, I'm tired of hearing about the potential. I know the potential's there. Look at our fucking team. Of course the potential's there. That's the problem.
It is, but that's all. That's really all we can. That's all we can really talk about right now is the potential that they have to do it. Because honestly, until they show us that they can do it, that's what we're talking about. They have the potential. Can they live up to the potential? That's the $1 million question. You know what I mean? Because I don't have the answer. If I did, I'd be making a whole lot of money. Same. But I agree. I feel your pain, as do every other Cowboys fan that's out there in Cowboys Nation. They all feel the pain of you, of me, of 30 years of not getting it done. It's evident. It's evident that something's got to change. Something's got to change. And I agree with you. Listen, I've been on the vocal front line saying that I think it all starts with the team leader, which is Dak Prescott. He's got to be the unquestioned leader of this team, and he's the one that has to make people think different about him. Period. Put that team on his back and win, because right now I think that we have a good enough defense. I think that we have a good enough offense to get this done. They just got to go out and do it. Me and you can sit here and we can talk all day till we're blue in the face. But at the end of it, it's this 53 players that take the field that can do it. And they're the ones that actually have to do it. And we have to trust in this coaching staff that they're going to be able to call the right plays and make the right play calls. And I'll be honest with you, there's sometimes that I'm not 100% sold on old Mike McCarthy when it comes to play calling either.
I was just going to say, I'm here for that. I'm here for him calling the plays.
Listen, it might have been that we have not done a podcast in so long that now we have got together and now we're like salt and pepper and we're sitting over here.
Right. Like, what is this?
We're like bumping heads. Listen, I was all for Mike McCarthy earlier in the season, and I don't think that it's necessarily he's bad. I think he's gotten better because he has saw the error of his ways early on in the season. And I think that he's gotten a little bit better, but there are some times where he makes some play calls or some of the ways that he has which it just drives you a little nuts. Some of the things that he does just drives you a little bit nuts. And and some of those things can be that they'll bite you in the ass. So, we got an armchair champion that says we're all tired of the moral victories. They don't get you into the playoffs. The season's halfway through, so they should work to fulfill the potential that is being seen in the Dallas Cowboys. And I agree. We are tired of moral victories. Nobody wants a moral victory. I don't like to sit here and come out after a loss and tell you this is why I think that we, did this or that and try to pump you up and make you feel better because listen, I'm nobody's parent. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad. Your parents should make you feel better, not me. And this Dallas Cowboys team sure as hell ain't going to make you feel better if, they're having performances like some of the ones that we've seen so far. But I just, Mike McCarthy has had some frustrating moments for me and given me a little bit of cause to question him. But
as far as his play calls or like in general, like what do you mean?
Just in general, time management. Some of the times
there was that. Yeah, we all knew that.
There was that game where, God, which game was it? Just not that long ago, where he had a chance, to score before the half, winds it down to basically 2 seconds and kicks a field goal when they could have thrown it. They had 15 seconds on the clock, take a shot at the end zone, maybe 2 shots at the end zone. He doesn't, calls timeouts, and I don't know. He just gives me, sometimes he scares the shit out of me, if I'm being honest. Sometimes he scares me because sometimes
so did Jason Garrett though. Like, let's be honest.
Oh, well, let's not even get into Jason Garrett. I don't want to talk about Mr. Clapping. Yeah, snap, crackle, and pop. But
that's an inside joke. Yeah.
He really, 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 he reminds me sometimes of the coach from The Waterboy. The coach when he's like cowering in the locker room and he's just like, he doesn't like. Sometimes he reminds me of that. He's like a damn deer in the headlights, and it drives me nuts sometimes. But
I think that's a little bit.
We can't change any of that. Dak is going to be the quarterback for the rest of the season and the considerable future. Mike McCarthy is going to be the coach for at least the end of the year. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. Obviously, he's got to do something in the playoffs because if he doesn't,
do you really think that Mike McCarthy might not be our coach next year?
It's tough to say that because if you win 12 games again, if you win 12 games again, it's tough to walk away from a coach after going, winning 12 games for what this would be the third year in a row now that we've won 12 games. It'd be very hard to walk away from a coach. But the thing is, if you're one and done in the playoffs, or let's say that we win a playoff game and we get bounced in the second round again, it's tough to look at that and think that, we went through the Dave Campo eras. I remember going through the Dave Campo eras where it was 3 straight 5-11 seasons. Obviously, that's inexcusable. You fire that guy. 3 straight 12-5 seasons. I don't know. There's a good chance they might give him another shot.
I think there absolutely is a huge chance they will. Do you remember? I mean, come on. How long did Jason Garrett stick around?
Yeah, I know. And I just my whole thing is as we just crack another cold one. That sounds nice. That sounds real nice. My only thing is this: Jerry is getting older by the day. I mean, he's starting to look.
That man, that could be a whole nother episode, Kelly.
He's starting to look like the dude from Tales from the Crypt, and
he's damn near sounding like he has Alzheimer's. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but he's off the hook.
Some of the shit he says is absolutely. Some of the things he says is just absolutely head scratching. Like, who let this man out? Who let this man out? Get him back in the senior living center, and get him out. Get him out. But
no, he should be evaluated. But anyways, yeah,
I think he should. I don't disagree with that. But no, we got Dak as our guy. He's our quarterback. We're not having any more personnel changes this year. These are the guys that we're rolling with. These are the guys that we're going into the second half of the season.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It's up to them to get it done. And if they don't, then the Dallas Cowboys front office has a decision to make, and we'll see where that decision goes. But
how many times have we been in the same situation though? Like, the Dallas
this is kind of a unique situation if you think about it, though, because when's the last time? I mean, the Cowboys never have had back-to-back 12-win seasons. And so if they do that again this year, which they've got a chance to do it, they have a chance to win 13. If they have back-to-back 3 winning seasons, but don't get it done in the playoffs and come up short again. I mean, that's kind of a unique situation if you think about it. If you're the front office and you're looking at that, You've got Dan Quinn, who a lot of people don't want him to walk. People want to say, hey, he should be the next coach, the head coach in waiting. A lot of people think he may be. That's why he's stuck around.
He should be protected at all costs. Yes.
And I listen, I love Dan Quinn. I think the team loves him. I think the players love him. I know the fans love him. But yeah, you've got a very hard decision to make when it comes to Mike McCarthy at the end of the season. If we have another disappointing end to this season and it ends in the playoffs. Now, if this team was to make it to the NFC Championship game and lose in the NFC Championship game, Mike McCarthy's absolutely going to be coming back as our head coach next year. He will. But if it's a similar thing, it's a similar thing, and we're bounced in the second round, I don't know, man. I'm not going to put no house money on it.
I think he'll be back regardless.
Yeah, well, we will see.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm here for Mike McCarthy.
Well, hopefully we don't have to worry about that. Hopefully, my lips to God's ears, we don't have to worry about that. Super Bowl coming this year, please. I need a Super Bowl.
Kelly?
I said, please. I need a Super Bowl. I'm not saying we're gonna win a Super Bowl. I'm not one of those fans. You already know that. But let's get into the Giants before we wrap this thing up and put the lipstick on this pig. Let's get into the Giants. We got the Giants coming up this weekend. No Daniel Jones. So we get a different quarterback, which, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I think that's an upgrade. I think Daniel Jones.
I mean, times.
Yeah, very, very many teams do you get rid of a guy. Listen, he's Danny Pesos because he's not worth a dime. We've discussed this. Danny Pesos. But, rarely do you get a team that you go into play and the backup quarterback, in my opinion, is probably a better option than their starting quarterback. Just because I think Daniel Jones has been so terrible this season. Just awful. But then again,
he's horrific.
that whole team has been pretty shitty. And you know what? I'll give Mike credit. He's not here on the show tonight, but Mike called it at the beginning of the season. He said that he didn't have any type of faith in the Giants this year. Thought that they were a fluke, and he has absolutely been right. They have been a fluke of what they did last year. They made the playoffs last year. This year, they're not even going to sniff the playoffs. I believe they're probably on the verge of being eliminated at this point already. So, early thoughts on the Giants. What do you think about this game? What do you expect from this game? Do you expect us to have another blowout like the very first game of the season? Do you expect us a little bit tighter? What's your opinions on this game?
I do. I expect another blowout. Maybe not a blowout. But I definitely expect a win. We're coming off of a loss from Philly. We got a chip on our shoulder. We're coming to a team where, I mean, let's be honest, is not comparable to Philly, or us for that matter. I definitely Cowboys by 21. At the least.
Cowboys by 21. And for those of you in the chat, I want to get some score predictions from you guys and let you guys let us know what you think. I'll throw some of these score predictions up on the board. Let us know what you guys are thinking about this. But I agree. I think we see another blowout. This team, the one thing they have been consistent at doing is blowing out bad teams.
Right.
And let me just say this too. They put the screws to the New York Jets, who I know the New York Jets. I'm not saying they're an elite team, but they are 4-4. They did get a win over the Eagles. They have been pretty competitive. That defense has held many quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes, to very low quarterback ratings. Dak Prescott shredded that secondary. Just going to say that. But the Cowboys team has blown out bad teams. They've been consistent at doing that. Once this defense, it's a very opportunistic defense. Once they get a turnover, one turnover tends to turn into a feeding frenzy. Like the Eagles game, no turnovers, and they didn't get a turnover at all. You get one turnover, and this defense just seems to, here comes two, here comes three, and it's one of those things where it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. I think this defense starts this game off. I think they get going just the same that they have been. I think they get a turnover. I love the fact that this offense is playing better than when we saw them in week one. Obviously, the offense didn't really have to do anything week one. I mean, Dak kind of sat back with his feet up in a recliner for most of that game, watching the defense, the special teams, everything just keep rolling. I figure it's going to be the same. I've got us dropping another 40 burger on the New York Giants. I don't know that we'll shut them out, but I'm going to say that I'm going to say 42 to 10. I think they're going to get a garbage time touchdown and they'll have a field goal. So let's say 42-10. I feel like that offense is moving a little bit better without Daniel Jones, believe it or not. Because a lot of times when you get a different quarterback in, younger guy, it tends to invigorate a team a little bit and give them a little bit of hope, a little bit of scrap. Not that I think that the Giants are anything to worry about, but, I could see them getting a garbage touchdown and possibly a field goal. But I think we blow them out. Be super surprised if we don't blow them out.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it's at home. Dallas Cowboys haven't lost at home this year. It's for all this talk that we get that the Dallas Cowboys don't have a home field advantage, I believe their win streak now is up to 11 in a row that they've won at home now. So they seem to play better in Dallas for sure. But yeah. So I mean, if we win here, that puts us up to obviously where that puts us at 6 wins. We've got the schedule gets easier this month. In December is where I'm a little bit worried about because that does get a little bit more difficult.
December is not our month every year. Let's be honest.
Yeah. It's not it's not necessarily the best, but it's not necessarily the best. But I'll say this: I do think that we get it done versus New York. I think that we wax New York. We've got a lot of scores here in the chat that are putting in the 40s. We've got a lot of people saying we're dropping 40 on them. I do. I see. It's hard for me to look at this team and say that we don't score 40. Somebody says 42-0. We've got Cam says 45-3. So yeah, this Cowboys team is definitely, when they play a bad team, they capitalize and they take advantage of opportunities. You got a guy that's playing. I think somebody said that I haven't looked at him to see, but I think the New York Giants backup quarterback's a rookie quarterback. I mean, I would not want to be a rookie going up against this defensive front in Micah Parsons and and DeMarcus Lawrence and then Osa Digizua. I mean, that's not somebody I'm going to want to go up against. Sam Williams is starting to actually get on a little bit of a tear, and he's getting hot. Finally, they're starting to play him. I think he was in the doghouse the early part of the season, but this Cowboys team is kind of rounding into a little bit of form. I know that's kind of tough to say after coming off a loss, but I feel like they're starting to get into a little bit of a groove. So hopefully they can make some things happen, and hopefully they can make us happy this second half of the season. So that being said, I want to know, what is your final record? What do you have the Cowboys finishing at this year? End of season, what do you have them finishing at? We're 5-3 right now. What's your record that you got the Cowboys finishing this thing out?
So it's funny because you and I have not really talked about this, but we have honestly the same prediction.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you got them 13 wins.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know.
Are you changing that at all? Because right now, if that's the case, we can only lose one more game.
I can't change it because it's what I said from the beginning. It's what I thought in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would love to see it. But after last week's game, I don't know. I hope. Yeah.
Well, I'm not changing mine either. I'm sticking with it. I got 13-4. I hope that this Cowboys team goes on a run. I absolutely think over the next 4, I think that all 4 of those games are winnable games, and I
would hope so.
I don't see us losing. I don't see us losing those games, and I know it's funny because I said that on Twitter, and somebody said, "Have you not watched the team this year? What do you mean? What do you mean these 4 games are all winner? Don't you know the Cowboys are going to shit the bed in one of these?" I said, "Listen, we've had our shit to bed moments early this year already. We've had it in Arizona. We had it. I don't think they're going to continue to do that. I really don't. Not from what I've seen these past couple of weeks. The team looks more confident on offense. And I still have confidence in this team defensively, even though they did slack a little bit against Philadelphia. I was a little disappointed in the defensive performance that we didn't get any turnovers versus Philly, but I thought they still played pretty well. I really do. I thought that they got kind of screwed out of some penalties. There was a couple. I mean, there was a penalty to keep a drive going that was I don't want to get back into the Philly game, but a defensive holding penalty that wasn't on Stephon Gilmore and A.J. Brown. That was one of the most bullshit calls that I've seen in a long time, which is saying something. But Philly tends to get that home cooking at home. So I think that it was a little bit worse than it should have been just due to some bad calls. But I think overall,
Agreed.
I think this team is sound in all three phases of the game, special teams, defense, and offense. And I think that's what you need to be successful. And I think if we can go on a little run here, listen, if we win these next 4 games, that's going to put us at 9-3 with Philly coming to town to Dallas. And like I told you, I think that we're going to beat Philly, and I think that we will give it to them. That would put us at 10 wins right there. I mean, so if we win the next 5, if we go 5-0 the next 5 games, there's going to be a lot of people taking note, especially if one of those wins is the Dallas Cowboys over the Philadelphia Eagles. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be taking notice of the Dallas Cowboys, and I think we'll feel pretty good about that. Do you agree with that?
I would, yeah, totally. But consistency, that's all I can say.
Consistency. You know, I hear that word consistency a lot. It's usually from the female variety. I hear that consistency. That girls like consistency, but us guys like consistency too.
Oh my God, Kelly, that is actually for a whole nother episode. That sounds like a Cowboys and Chaos episode.
Yeah, it could be. And we take this whole thing right off the track. It'd go right off the rails, and we go into something else because me and you, we know where the conversations go because we're a bunch of little, whatever. We'll all get to it. We won't get into that. But listen, I think that this Cowboys team is set up to go on a run here, guys. And if as long as that key word, the consistency, as long as we can have that, that's what I think is going to be the key to this Cowboys team going on a run. The schedule does get harder in December. We have talked about that. We have acknowledged that. But listen, all the opportunities are in front of this team. It's up to this team to go out and change the narrative. That's the only ones that can do it. It's up to them to look at the areas that they need to get better. It's up to Mike McCarthy to make sure that happens. Dan Quinn on the defensive side. And Dak Prescott to make sure he keeps playing solid ball. Don't turn the ball over. Make the plays happen that matter the most in the most crucial points of the game. Make sure that failure is not something that's on the table. We all want to see that from him more than anything else. I think at the end of the day, despite any criticism that you might have had of Dak Prescott, despite the criticism that anybody has of Dak Prescott, we're all Dallas Cowboys fans. Nobody wants Dak Prescott to succeed more than us. I mean, I don't think there's any Cowboys fan that is actively rooting for Dak Prescott to not succeed. If you are, you're probably not a Dallas Cowboys fan.
No more than me. More than me. And I want that to be portrayed through this podcast because yes, I am being harsh and I said what I said, but with love comes criticism, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's at that point. Like, we got to see it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Like you said, with love comes criticism. You gotta be critical. Sometimes you have to be critical of the ones that you love the most. And so, you came in with your opinion. At the end of the day, all opinions are always welcome because there is no. Never mind, I can't say that. I was about to say there's no such thing as an ignorant opinion, but I talk with Philly fans every damn day, and there is definitely some ignorant opinions.
See, that's part of the reason why I left Twitter because I can't with all them.
Yeah, you don't want to see it. But I will say this, man. Twitter is child's play compared to Facebook. If you ever go on one of those Facebook Dallas Cowboys pages, oh my God, it's like arguing with 6-year-olds. I can't even do that. I stay as far away from that as I can because there is no chance in hell that I would not get banned for a lifetime for the things that I want to say to some of these people on Facebook. Banned for the life of it. And yeah, I know Cam says I got to stop talking with these Philly fans. I know, I try. the thing is, I don't go to other people's pages. I don't go to Philly fans' pages. I don't Phillies people that are on the Philly side of things, they don't show up on my timeline. These people come to me. I post something, then they come to me and they talk all this and I gotta defend my team and I gotta
Do you not remember when I was actually on a Philly podcast? Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I do remember. I don't think there's not one Philly content creator that would want me to come on their podcast. I really don't.
I told him, I was like, hey, are you sure? Because I'm gonna come on here guns a-blazing. And he's like, yeah.
Guns blazing. And I remember that. You did. You held your own. You held your ground.
Yeah. What do you mean? How could I not? It's Dallas.
Yeah, no, it is. And you got, sometimes you gotta, here's my thing though. I stopped arguing with anybody that if they have no profile pic and under 10 followers, I can't do it. And I'm not a person that judges anybody based on your followers. I know some people have 100, some people have 200. I'm not a person that sits there and I'm a follower snob. I'm not that. I don't think that just because you have 60 followers means you don't know what the hell you're talking about in football. But it's always the same ones on Philadelphia. No profile picture, under 10 followers, saying some of the most outrageous stuff that a person can say. And then it always gets personal. It always goes to the, Cam says, or Mr. Bunch of Numbers after his name. So it always be like,
exactly
622-005942-867-5309. It's just, those are the ones that you can't argue with. Those are the ones you got to put on mute. Let them talk to themselves. They think they're still talking, but you don't see anything they got to say. You just got to mute those people for your own peace of mind.
For sure.
But yeah, we're gonna pull you back on Twitter. I know your life has been busy.
I'm back. No, I'm back on Twitter. Like I actually moved the app back to my actual like home screen today. And I came on and I was like, hey, I'm back. And like all my same followers were still there. And like, I appreciate you all for that. Thank you.
And listen, they're going to be there for you because
I still have like 2.6, like, oh, not 2.6, like 2,000, like over 2,600 followers. And I'm like,
well, nobody's not going to unfollow you because you're off Twitter. People have been asking where you're at. They thought you went into witness protection. And I mean, with your mouth, obviously, that's a possibility that you could have went into witness protection. So listen, but people miss you. People love you. People like to have your opinion. And, you say some, you definitely are unfiltered. You don't, I think that's in your bio.
You know what I think it was, Kelly? I think it was when you said that you went to the Cowboys tailgate at the stadium and you said that people were asking about me. You texted me, you're like, oh, where's MC? And I was like, what? People actually care?
Yeah. I mean, you can't be one of the mainstays on Cowboys Twitter with, all of our people that are out here. I mean, I've seen Cam. She's in the chat. She showed up for you. I don't see Cam a whole lot in here, but she showed up for you. I know she loves you. She does show up here and chats with us sometimes, but she's definitely in here for you. I know that for sure. Angel popped by. Angel from the Jerry's chat. He popped in. He said that he had to just make sure that you were still alive. So I've seen several people that have popped in to say hello, to see you, to hear you talking Cowboys football. So yes, you are most definitely missed. And it was definitely great having you in on the show and hearing your voice and being able to talk with you and get your opinions on the Dallas Cowboys team. I mean, listen, the duo that is K9 and MC is never going to go away. That's always going to be a dynamic.
Never.
Even though this time, I swear to God, this is the first time in the history of times that we really have disagreed on anything. There's I don't really remember a time where me and you really disagreed on anything. I feel like we were mostly on the same page with things in the past.
That's true. Like back when Cowboys and Chaos, like we would always agree on the same things.
Yeah.
And I feel like people like almost wanted us to disagree.
I know. They wanted to hear us fight.
I can legitimately say that I disagree with you on a lot of points.
You did, and that's good. That's good, because me and Mike, a lot of times, we agree on a lot of things, and we rarely do we disagree on things. We've had a few guests on here that I've went back and forth with that I've disagreed with some things that they've talked about, but for the most part, me and Mike are we're there. Cam says just no more love for Richard Sherman. We're referencing that time that you wanted, Richard Sherman on the Cowboys, and you were getting, there was a lot of people that didn't like that opinion, but you were steadfast with that. But now Richard Sherman, he's in the booth. We can put that behind us. We don't need
okay, I actually heard that Richard Sherman was talking shit about CeeDee Lamb.
He does not think CeeDee Lamb is a number one receiver.
See, this is new to me. Like, I have not been on, mind you, those who are watching, I have not been on Twitter for 6 months. Like, today is the first time that I went on Twitter. And I get all these things about Richard Sherman. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I had no idea. I had no idea he had anything against CeeDee Lamb.
He has been saying that that CeeDee Lamb is not a bona fide number one receiver. And I think that he should be drug tested, because I don't know what the hell he's talking about. CeeDee Lamb has been a absolute. He proved it last year that he was number one receiver when it was just him on that team and a bunch of cast-offs, and he went for 1,300 yards. And he's doing it this year. Just at 191 yards against the Eagles. And then the week before he had over 100 yards. And the week before he went over 100 yards. Like, he is on a tear right now. And I think he's going to continue to do it. I honestly don't see I see CeeDee Lamb having in every single game the rest of in this next 4-game stretch with these 4 opponents that we got. I think he goes over 100 yards on every single one of them. That'd put him, I think, at 8 games of over 100 yards. Like, he's going to finish the season, and I think he's got the chance to be an all-pro.
Hang on. Go back. Did you say Richard Sherman insinuated that CeeDee Lamb was on drugs?
No, I said Richard Sherman is on drugs.
Oh, okay.
No, Sherman's on drugs. How the hell are you going to say that CeeDee Lamb is not a number one receiver?
Listen, I'm just catching up. I'm catching up here. I don't know. But I will have a talk with Sherman. But he probably blocked me from a couple years ago when I wanted him to be our cornerback.
Corner. Sometimes saying corner and quarter can be difficult, but that's okay. Yeah. Well, so anyway, we've got, we've kind of wrapped everything. We've talked about, the midseason grade. We've talked about the Philly game. We've talked about the Giants game. So I want to get to the end of things and start wrapping it up. My girl MC, let me just tell y'all, she's sick. She came into the show not feeling the greatest. She's taking care of her daughter who hasn't been feeling very good. She hasn't, and Megs ain't been feeling very good either. So she came in, she gutted this out tonight, guys, to be with us. So I just want to say thank you. A hat tip to you. Thank you for coming on and coming through for me, as always. And Cowboys Nation, thank you for all of you that tuned into the chat tonight, for all your contributions, questions. And if you are, if you haven't already, if you're new to the show, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Continue to grow this channel. We will be back next week. We are on Thursday night instead of Wednesday. Mike's doing some more traveling, so we're going to kind of switch the show and do a Thursday night show. But we will be back next week. So thank you guys all again for tuning in. And it's on to New York, Cowboys. It's time to put another ass whooping on another team and get another win in the book. So Cowboys Nation, until next time, we out.